Welcome to episode 76 of the Lovoni and Sarah podcast. Each week we discuss holistic approaches to weight loss and well-being as we work at improving our own health and wellness. We share our stories about what we've learned through research and experience in the hopes that we encourage others wanting to improve their health too. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lovoni.
And I'm Sarah. And on today's episode, we're chatting about stress. We all have it in our lives, but what can we do to have less stress? And what are some potential ways of minimizing it? How does stress affect us, not just mentally, but physically? And can it interfere with weight loss goals? Are there ways of making stress less impactful? Let's find out. But before we do, let's talk about last week's challenge, which was focusing on the basics for our health and our weight loss. So how did we do, Lovoni? Fire away, give us an update.
You know, it's amazing how something that's so simple has been so impactful for me.
Really, like revolutionary.
Yeah, almost. Yes. It's like
Yeah.
an epiphany.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so all I had to think about, and all I have thought, not all I've thought about, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
rather than thinking, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that.
Yeah.
It's like, no,
Simplify everything.
exercise. I haven't missed that. It's like 30 minutes. Off you go, do it, done. And, most times I went over that, but that was just 30 minutes as long
Yeah.
as that had happened. And then water, constantly reminding myself, water, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not constantly as in obsessing about it, but just,
regularly. Yeah.
yeah. And then just, the whole sleeping and eating and getting outside. So when I let Ramsey out, I always make sure I, go out, pull a few weeds
Mm-hmm.
out of the garden, or just, hang clothes on the line just to get some. I mean, I
Sunlight.
swim during the summer, but yeah, especially first thing in the morning to get some sunlight, and just
Mm-hmm.
be outside, even though it's been revolting, like so revolting, the
Well, as in
heat and
hot.
humidity. Oh God, just gross. But I'm like, oh, here I am outside.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Fresh air.
Yeah. So
Fresh
I've
air.
just found it to be like a bit of a game changer for me, I
Mm-hmm.
have to say. Yeah. What
Amazing.
about you? What about you?
It's been good. I've been back into the gym this week, folks, for
Well
the first
done.
time since February. So since I got ill with COVID back in February and everything went crashing
Right.
down, which we've talked about before, this is my first trip, a couple of trips back. So yeah, really good. Feel like I've, again, part of the basics of saying, well, instead of talking about it and thinking I will, how about I am? So that's how I've kind of
Yeah.
converted that. I've also been mindful about what you were saying in last week's episode, that when I go to do something, I've been asking myself that question: is this a basic need, or is this actually just something which is kind of something I've automatically been doing? And if it isn't adding to my health goal, to my overall basics of my
Right.
health, do I need to do it? Am I going to do it? So I've just asked that question to myself every time I've gone to do things.
Right.
So yeah, it's been good. It's been a changeful week. I feel like it's turning a different corner for me, and I haven't always wanted, like you said, I haven't always wanted to do it. I've sort of on those trips to the gym, I sort of thought of a couple of reasons perhaps why I wouldn't, and then I thought, or
Right.
I've told myself that I am, so how about I just go do it? And like you, just 30 minutes. I did a 30-minute
Yeah.
swim and I did a 30-minute actual gym session. So yeah,
Oh,
it's been a
That's
good week.
awesome.
Yeah, been a good
Did you
week.
say a swim?
I did, yeah. 30-minute
Or
swim.
they have a
That's
pool there?
Yeah, and I was there
Oh,
for quarter
nice.
to 8 in the morning. So
Nice.
got down there nice and early, did my half an hour, and actually kind of did a different approach because I've got a oh my gosh, my brain's just gone. But anyway, a dry robe. There we go. Good, a dry robe. So I didn't shower and everything at the pool. I literally came out, stuck my dry robe on, brought myself home, and then showered at home and got myself ready for the day. So actually, other than the actual going there getting it done, it didn't impact anything because I did my normal routine once
Right.
I got back anyway. So yeah, it was good.
It's good for me. I focus on how good I feel afterwards. I think that's a big thing for me.
I thought I'd feel
I just
better. I actually genuinely, I thought, oh, I don't feel so great. But I think maybe I've got to learn about perhaps eating better, or when I eat, or things like
Right.
that, because I really did, push myself because I hadn't done anything like that for, months and months. I think
Right.
but then I've still been very active for the rest of the week. So, doing my 10,000 steps when I'm walking around, going to work, doing this, that, and the other. So it's not,
Mhm.
it's not like I'm stationary. It's just very different from doing
Walking
dedicated
up the
exercise.
steep flight of steps.
I'm not going to bore you with the fact that I had to do it twice yesterday. Twice.
You did.
Oh man, my heart just sank. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to do it again. But then I thought, you know what? It's all
It's
adding to my
exercise.
basics. And yeah, it is.
Mhm.
So
Oh
quit the
God, if you can
moaning,
climb
get up there.
steps, they're like, oh gosh. You know, talking about, the basics and how we did, there was yesterday morning, I thought, God, this is what happens when you don't stick to the basics and you don't do what works for you.
Right.
So I'm sure people have seen this. It's a video going around, and this could well be true. 30 minutes upon awaking, you eat 30 grams of protein, and then you work out for 30 minutes, and you keep your heart rate at a steady, not like a crazy,
Mm-hmm.
beats, but just at a steady, where you
Level.
can,
Mm-hmm.
still have a conversation. Yeah. And so I did that yesterday. Well, for starters, I was thinking 30 grams of protein because I don't usually eat till later. Depends.
Mm.
Some mornings I'm awake and I'm ravenous.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but most often I just if I and I trying to eat too much or like protein, I don't know. I'm good with the pastry. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no,
Pastry,
that's
bit of
okay.
coffee, and I'm feel good.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I thought, oh, how am I going to do that and get more, protein, right? And I know this isn't what the episode's about, but this is what happens when you
Go off
deviate
piste.
from the
Yep.
basics. And I thought, okay, I'll try what this guy says. Mind you, you've got to do it on an ongoing basis. One go is not going to
No,
show.
do it.
But he
No.
goes, the weight will just eviscerate. Fall off you. The fat will if you do this
Did you
every
believe
day,
him? Yeah.
right? Well, it's a scientific fact, apparently. So anyway, so I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And and I work out quite early, which meant eating quite early.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I don't know, I'll make a smoothie, use my husband's protein powder in it. There's 20, 25 grams of protein. Put half a cup of cottage cheese in there. There's another 14. I'm good, right? Make myself a smoothie. Well, I've got like a really good blender, but the little part of it, not so great.
Right.
So I put it all in there, go to whiz it up, and then nothing. Like it just didn't work.
Right. It
Put
broke.
water in, did it again. Mm-mm. I was using berries because they're cheap this time of year, so I buy them
Yeah.
and if I don't eat them, I'll freeze them.
Reason.
So I was doing, did that. Anyway, so I'm like, okay, get the contents, put it into the big section of the blender, which is very good. This is a Vitamix. Put it in that, whizzed it up, put it in, my glass, which was like 2.5 glasses, because the
Oh,
protein powder makes it all
frothy.
frothy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, that's how I was. And I had a sip and I'm like, mm, yeah, I don't know if I can drink two and a
Did you
half
get it
glasses.
all
And I
down you?
couldn't. No, I
No.
couldn't. Anyway, I did that, and then I worked out, and I was like, "I just wanna vomit."
Oh, so you feel sick.
Yeah, because I go quite, at a good pace on my
Mm.
bike, and, yeah, did not feel good, and I thought, that doesn't suit me. I'm just
Do
like,
it your
"Why
way.
did I
Yeah.
deviate from my basics?" Which has been working for me,
Do
so
it your way.
yeah, and on top of it, I had all the bloody washing up to do because I had to change vessels. So I
All the
thought,
bloody smoothie
"No."
everywhere. Mm.
Right, yeah, no, no. So anyway, it was a little stressful, I have
It
to
was a
say.
learning point.
Yeah, and it was just like, I'd been doing well up to that point,
Mhm.
so, like, why
Yes. Don't
deviate, you know?
introduce that stress into your life.
No. No, God. You can't talk about stress, obviously, without talking about cortisol because that's like, you
Mhm.
know, the buzzword.
Yeah.
But, so, just on the boring stuff, cortisone is a steroid hormone that is essential for life and is produced by the adrenal glands, and they sit one on top of each kidney. Did you know that?
I did not know
Yeah,
that.
right. Apparently that's where I thought they were higher up,
Oh,
but
wow.
yeah, and I should know that from my studies, but
Mm.
anyway, it's also known to be the body's primary stress hormone and has many functions, okay? But and it does, responds to stress. It's that fight or flight that we
Mhm.
get.
Mhm.
Um, supposedly regulates metabolism, da da da. But when you have too much stress, it can apparently elevate your blood sugar, okay?
Wow.
Cause depression, disrupt your sleep,
Mhm.
um, mess with your metabolism. And when you're in a constant state of stress, you can, and it messes with your mind too, but
Yeah.
we know that. But it's the physicality of it that I think people don't realize, that, you can put that weight on around the middle, like too
Mhm.
much stress. So somebody that's like, in say an environment at home that's either unsafe or not happy,
Yeah.
and, apart from the fact that it can cause depression, but being in that constant fight or flight, I sometimes feel like that with, you know, the man I live with, because he's very combative.
Yeah.
And not that, I mean, he doesn't hurt me in any
Physically.
way,
No,
but
no, just
no, God,
conversationally. Yeah.
he's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
conversation and he doesn't realize, but that's just how he is. He's
Mhm.
just sort of doesn't hold back with what he
Yeah.
says. No, and he's not cruel or anything like that. I just feel like I'm constantly
Yeah.
walking on eggshells. So I think that can be a stressful situation, but I think that there is people, especially women, in far worse situations than that, where they're
Oh, wow, yeah.
constantly having to worry about their safety or their children's safety.
Mhm.
That can be awful. Um, and I will talk about, uh, things that have helped me.
Yeah.
But what have you got to say on the whole stress thing, Sarah?
Well, for me, stress is something in my personal experience that I feel that it's because I'm absorbing emotion from others or reaction from others. And then I
Yeah.
looked into that a bit more, and actually it was quite interesting because when it was talking about managing stress, I came across something that was called secondhand stress. I don't know if you saw about this
Mhm.
or know about this, but it said that people are 4 times more likely to catch stress from someone that's close to them. So they listed friends, family, co-workers. So if that group of people are then stressed, they pass that on to you, if you're
Mhm.
particularly if you're close to them. And the way that they pass it on is through facial expressions, voice frequency, even their odor, because I guess maybe they, in moments of stress,
Sweat a
their
bit.
body odor probably changes, yeah, and
Mhm.
touch. Um, and then it even then talks about the fact that stress can so easily be passed on between mother and baby, etc. So that's what
Right.
I'm quite mindful of, is that there's two different types of stress for me. There's the stress that I am very aware of, particularly in my past working situations where I've been coming up against a deadline or a
Mm.
volume of work and I felt out of control. So I felt that I can't make that deadline and it's coming closer and closer and closer. So my stress levels have been going up. I can unpick a bit about that in a minute as well. Or there's volume where you just can't cope, but that doesn't have to be within a career sort of situation. That can be at home where you feel that your
Mm.
home is overwhelming. It can be your children where you feel like you're not coping with what they need or their care of them. The relationship can be overwhelming, and that then, because the demands on you are maybe really, really high. And so
Mhm.
there's that element of stress where I feel that overwhelm or deadline, or there's the stress, as I said, of others, and I feel like I absorb that,
Mm.
or they influence or impact me so much by their behavior, their opinions, their emotions, and I'm not very
Their
good.
negativity.
Yeah, I'm not good at putting a boundary in place. I'm not good at putting
Mm.
this invisible barrier. Um, I don't know if I've spoken before about a lady that I used to go and have some treatment with, and she wasn't there as a counsellor, but she always ended up having those sorts of conversations because you're in that room with someone for an hour and a half, and she's doing, you know, she's doing acupuncture on me. And I asked her once, how do you not take on everybody else's woes?
Mm.
And she said, I put almost like a bubble, like an invisible bubble around me, and I do care, and I find it really difficult, but I have to be firm with myself and say, anything outside that bubble is their problem, and I will listen and I will
Yeah.
advise, but it's not mine to take home. And I thought that's really good, isn't it, when you're influenced or impacted by someone else's stress? Maybe that bubble is something to think about. But
Right.
yeah, and then the word that it then came up with, I was like, oh, this is really good, is resilience. You need to work on your
Mm.
own resilience when it comes to stress, no matter what
Right.
that form is, because if your resilience is better, you cope with stress better. And as you were then going, you know, painting the picture for us, then we need to deal with stress no matter what the source is, because
Hmm.
it has such an impact on our own health. So the reasons could be vast, you know, whether it's someone else's,
Right.
whether it's the situation we're in. um some of the signs that you talked about is one of the other things I know is I can't concentrate properly when I'm really, really stressed. I
Hmm.
feel like everything's so very muddled. And I guess what happens
That's, I
is,
think, overwhelm too.
yeah, but what happens is you
Mm.
stop concentrating on yourself, don't you? You don't make yourself a
Hmm.
priority. You then turn to sugary foods or fast foods or something to comfort yourself because you just feel out of
Right.
control. And so, as well as the physical impact that you were talking about with the weight gain potentially around your core, you know, your
Hmm.
middle and everything, I think you
They're
then,
in your face too,
yeah.
apparently.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mm.
That's, yeah. So, but then you have the actual emotional impact that makes you then turn to food more, which obviously then is
Hmm.
going to make you gain weight, or at least very much not help you lose weight, whichever that is.
Right.
So I think that the impact of it is far greater than we give it credit for.
Oh
And
God, yes.
do you know, I've suddenly, it's not suddenly at all, I have grown to realize that it's such a waste of time being so stressed about things,
Oh.
because, and in my experience in the corporate world, I would bust a gut to get something done on a deadline. And I can guarantee you that 95% of that time, the deadline would get moved,
Hmm.
because the director, because I was working directly with some really senior people, and they'd be like, oh well, I'm it's got moved to 12 o'clock now. And I want to go, what do you mean? You know, I've been up till 3 o'clock in the morning making sure that that
Trying
was
to get
there
it
for the
done.
9 o'clock
Hmm.
deadline, and all of a sudden, because it's not important to them, they are minimizing their stress by going, oh well, I'll move that because I'm not ready. They don't realize the fallout from that, do they? And so what I've grown to realize is the stress that I have put myself under, and occasionally still do, is not worth it. And my own mental health, my own health, and my own goals are so much more important than being that vastly overwhelmed, or like we said, like someone else's stress or someone else's behavior. Letting that
Mm.
impact me is not worth it.
It's
But
being
that's,
mindful of that. It's being mindful of the fact that it does do that. And I think that's the thing when you're feeling stressed. I think there's two categories of stress. There's the stress that you can do something about, and then there's the stuff that you can't.
mhm, mhm,
So I think financial stress is a big thing for people. So
absolutely.
you think, okay, do I have financial stress because I've lost my job? That's different, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or that you're in a job that you're not getting, so much money. And then there's the stress of having big credit card bills because you like to spend money. And, so there's that. So there's those two
Mhm.
things. So if it's something that you can change, like, I don't know, maybe have to get a second job or stop spending so much money,
Yeah.
right? Then there's the stress of, like you were saying, you take on other people's stress. You can walk into a room and feel
Yeah,
the
the
vibe,
unspoken. Yeah,
energy.
absolutely.
Yeah. Like if people have had an argument or something's
Mhm.
gone down, you can feel it. It comes out. And some people it just like oozes out of. But you can't you can't do anything about other people's stress from the how they take it out on other people. But you can learn how you deal with it,
Mhm.
to deal with it better. So if somebody, people worry so much about what everybody thinks or what people think of them and what people, this is what I think. What people think of me is none of my business. And really, at the end of the day, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Simple as that. For the most part, I'm kind to everybody unless they're an asshole. But
Mm-hmm.
that, even then I still try and be. So, that's fine.
Yeah.
There are people that just revel in stress, I think.
Yes,
Playing
absolutely.
the
Drama,
victim,
drama,
the
drama. Yeah.
drama. Yeah. So if you have those people in your life, it's, sometimes you just need to put an arm's
That's
length.
what I've written down. Think about who you surround
Yeah.
yourself with. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
absolutely.
You want someone that can talk you down off the ledge, not sends you up there,
Yeah, yeah.
really. So, there are people that just love to talk about, their drama and how sad they were or how the world has pissed them off. And you think about, like social media is a big thing for that. I think that creates so much
Yeah.
stress in people's lives where they go on and they see like riots or they see war. And I mean, it's not to say you don't stick your head in the sand and pretend this isn't happening, but there's so many angry fucking people out there.
Yeah.
And I think, oh my God, how do you stand your day being like that all the time where you have to tell everybody they're wrong or, go out and, fight or yell or whatever. I mean,
I often think about
that's
what
a
happens when they
horrible
go
way
to
to
bed at
be.
night. When you think, when they get
Right.
into bed, do they sort of feel content with themselves? I'm guessing
Like,
they
oh, I've done
probably
a good
do,
job
but
today because, I
yeah, I think
screamed in front of a camera
odd.
and lay on the ground kicking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think it's just being mindful of not taking other people's shit in,
Mm-hmm.
really. you know.
Organize your time.
Um,
That's a good way, isn't it? Of
that's something that I was going to say because
yeah.
people like they get always running late, and you get to somewhere, you're trying to get to somewhere, and you're really stressed because you're thinking, "Oh my God, this always happens to me." I always have a million things to do, and I don't have enough time. I don't know. Get up earlier, plan your monitor your
Or
time
I
better,
agree. So
plan your time
organize your
better.
time, plan it, do the blocking, what I
Mhm.
think works really well. But also what I've
Yes,
learned to do is be realistic about what I'm trying to fit in that time as well. So what I always
right.
do was try to put everything that I could
Everything
ever do. And like it's just not going to get done. So
before you've
in
got an
those
appointment.
so the two things is if you find yourself in that moment of high stress because you are overwhelmed, because basically your deadlines, whatever that is, even if it's just the deadline of trying to get out the door, I
Right.
don't mean a work, work deadline, any deadline. Think about what you can drop off then. You're like, let's be realistic about this. Does
Mm-hmm.
that have to be done now? If it doesn't, get comfortable with leaving it. That's what I really struggle with. I don't get comfortable with not having all of it done. I want all of it done. Maybe it doesn't need to be. And all of a sudden, it's so much less stressful because you're like, oh, I'll just leave it then. So that's one
Right.
thing. And then also, like you said, getting prepared before you even get to that stage.
Mm-hmm.
Be realistic about what you're even adding to that list. How much time have you got?
Right.
Realistically, what are you going to get done in that time? Don't expect to try and do everything because it's only going to lead to stress.
If you know that you've got a meeting or you've got, something important to do the next day, or I mean, even if you don't, and I've said this so many times, even little things like getting your clothes out,
Mm-hmm.
getting those out ready takes away a whole lot of stress. That's what you're going to wear the
Or for
next
me, it's not so much
morning.
even getting them out, it's having the washing that's done, that's been ironed, if that's what I'm going to do, and put away. So I know I can just go to the drawer or the wardrobe,
Right. You don't have to go
or
searching for
if my
something.
son then says, where is, I said, it's there, because I know that
Right.
it's clean, folded, or hung, or ironed, or whatever. That, when you can
Yeah.
get on top of your life admin, get on top of life admin, and it removes so much stress because you know where your keys are, you know that you've
Yeah.
got something to put on that you want to wear, or you've thought ahead of time, oh bugger, I need to get it washed. At least you know that that needs to be done. So yeah, you're right, maybe get the clothes out, but at least have it clean, ready and sorted.
Right. And that comes too with just putting stuff away because I
Mm-hmm.
get really uptight if I can't find something. But putting, things away. So, things that have helped me in the past with stress when my first husband and I split up because he was verbally abusive, and
Mhm.
he had a lot of problems of his own, to the point where we had a break, got back together, and then I was just like, "Mm-mm, nope, sorry, I'm not putting up with this for the rest of my life." And for 14 months, he made my life living hell. I used to have to park my car down in a neighbor's garage, and he'd, turn up at the house because I had my own business. I worked from home a lot of the time, and I just have to flee and leave the house. And sometimes I get over to my sister's, and there was one time I had no shoes. I just hadn't grabbed shoes. Another time I had different shoes on. um it was like high stress, and I remember
Mhm.
going up to my mum and just crying and saying, I feel like I'm going to have a nervous breakdown. The one thing that got me through this, and this was, God, back in 2000, 2000, was exercise.
Mhm.
That's when I really, I used to go to the gym on and off, but I walked every day. I
Mhm.
walked for an hour, and I'd get up so early and go. And, looking back now, probably, I don't think he would have grabbed me and hurt me, but he would have, had a horrible
Yeah.
argument with me on the street or something like that. But he never did find me when I was walking. Um, but the exercise just, I think that's what kept me from having a
Mhm.
breakdown, because it was so bad and so consistent. There'd be a car parked outside my house, and he'd start calling me, and I couldn't change my number because of businesses, and
Mm.
because of my business. And the police had recordings of what he was saying to me, and so they got involved. And oh yeah, you can get a court injunction for him to keep away from me, but that's only as good as
Mm.
the person that decides they want to
Yeah.
follow the law. Um, but anyway, exercise, and it's a known thing that exercise helps
Mhm.
stress, and
Mhm.
that was my biggest thing. And I
Particularly
think
going
that,
for a walk, it's getting outside as well. I think
oh
that's
yeah, so
part
you're
of it. It's
getting
getting out,
outside,
fresh air,
yeah,
connect, regrounding,
yeah,
connecting with
yeah,
nature again.
all
And I
of that.
think that is
Huge,
a real
huge thing for
benefit when
me.
if you're in a work environment or in a home environment where you just feel that overwhelm, just get outside for
Get
15 minutes even
outside,
and go for a walk. And
and
yeah,
and to ask yourself too, because there is stress. Like if have found out that you're sick, or a child's sick, quite
yeah,
badly sick. But, when it comes to work, and I don't mean work as if, a surgeon has to go and operate on someone's brain.
no.
Just, general work. God, people it's like, I think it's probably that relationships and money are probably the biggest
Mhm.
stresses for people. And I say this to people on photo shoots sometimes when, we're trying to get stuff done, and it can be quite stressful. It's not life or death. Like, let's just remind ourselves that, of
Yeah.
everybody. It's food.
It's a cake. Yeah,
It's
or
a
whatever.
fucking
Yeah,
cake.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get some perspective on this.
Right,
Yeah,
right. And that's kind of like yesterday, I felt like that because I'm very busy with work. Last night I lost notes. I told Sarah this. I lost all the notes I'd done for the podcast
yeah,
today when my computer decided to take a crap. Um, and I just felt like so overwhelmed with things that I had to get done. And I was just being mindful about it. And I thought, you know what? One way or another, they're going to get done. It's not the end of the world. What can I do to alleviate this? So just
but that's
there's, rather than just
yeah,
focusing on it, worrying. I think people
blowing
worry,
it up even more. But that's the thing,
blowing
it's
it up even
so
more.
often aside of really important things that you are worrying about or stressed about, like illness and finances. However, in the everyday, most of the time it's not the actual thing that's creating the stress, it's your reaction to it or your
Yeah,
emotion with
exactly.
it. And these things come along, and it's like that sort of saying that they say, it's not the thing that you are coming across, it's your reaction to, it's how you handle it, that then basically is how things play out. And I think that's exactly that, isn't it? So in those moments when it goes wrong, I mean, I can give an example that recently something was broken in the house and I didn't react very well at all. I was really stressed, really angry. I raised my voice. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just a thing, right? It had no sentimental value. Yes, it had a bit of actual monetary value, but you know, what, so what? But the reason I react like that because I was frustrated. And when I then
Mhm.
separate that and go, oh, do you know what? It can probably get glued back together. And if it can't, it can't. But what was really the core of the problem was my frustration around it. And that's why I reacted in the way that I
Mhm.
did. That's what I could then map out a bit. I can apologize. I can talk about it. That's very different, isn't it, from really what the actual problem was. And I think a lot of these situations, that's what we should be doing. We should be separating the emotion from it. What is the reality of the situation? Like you say, make an action plan. Do I need to get a second job? Do I need to spend less frivolously? Do I need to, with my own health, do I need to stop talking about going to the gym and actually start going to the gym, or
Right.
going for a walk, or eating less, for God's sake, or eating less sugar?
Right.
Or we all know what our truth is in that
Mhm.
situation. We all know what our truth is. Removing the emotion and the physical, the sort of emotive reaction around it, that's
Mhm.
what predominantly is. And actually there's two forms of stress. There's acute stress, which should only last minutes or maybe hours, but it's a reactive
That's that
thing.
fight or flight thing. That's the
Or there's
protection.
chronic long-term stress, which
Mhm.
is different, and that's when you really do need to take action for working on that. So whether that, for some people that might be medication, it can be
Talking to
meditation,
somebody even.
talking, sharing that.
Like,
It can,
especially grief, because grief is, I mean, grief is stressful. So,
absolutely.
talking
So
to someone,
find your
journaling.
support network, adding positivity to your thoughts, because sometimes it can feel so bleak, but starting to add the
Mm.
positivity in the way that you think. Relaxation, that's so important. I don't think
Mhm.
I certainly don't know how to relax properly, and I
No.
think you need that to create, to
Breathing.
yeah, restock your battery to then be able to cope again. And I think that's part of it, is when you're saturated with having coping for so long, it can take
Mhm.
one little thing to tip you over the edge. Relaxation helps you empty that cup again of all of that, stress and worry. And then you've got a bit of resilience again, which is coming back to that word. Your
Mhm.
resilience then is ready, reset, and learn about these boundaries, and learn about the fact that you just maybe need to toughen up a bit. If someone else's emotion is starting to affect you, go, okay, I'm gonna let them have that emotion and I'm gonna have mine. That's so much easier said than done, particularly if you are an emotive
Right.
person, an
But the more you
empath.
do it, the easier it becomes, though. If
Yeah,
someone's being a dick, you don't have to always get combative and go up against
yeah,
them.
just let them
You
do their
just think,
thing.
let them. Just let them. Let
Yeah.
them do their stuff.
And the other
Because if
thing
you
then,
took everything in,
oh,
oh God,
and
which,
take
a
that
lot of us
time
do.
that you would be doing that and then invest in yourself. So in the time that you
Right.
would have been then concerned or worried or taking all of their concern in, use that time to invest in yourself. So making sure you get better sleep or rest,
Mm-hmm.
eating good food, drinking your water, doing your exercise. You, turn it back to you and focus on you, and all of a sudden it becomes, you can feel yourself calming down a lot more, can't you? So like you said, you took
Right.
yourself for a walk,
Go,
use that
yeah, go
time.
for a bike ride, go for a walk.
Yeah,
Journaling is another good thing.
yeah,
If
absolutely,
it's
getting it
very
all out.
bad, getting it all out, just dumping it. It doesn't have
Hmm.
to be cohesive. Just get it out.
Hmm.
And the more you do it, the better it becomes. I find I'm so much less stressed when I journal.
Okay.
And right now I'm like, oh, I don't have time, but I do. I need to
Yeah,
do that.
find it.
Um, and and if it is really bad, talk to somebody. Like,
Ask for help.
it ask for help. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are It's so much easier, I think, to speak to a counselor now after, COVID and the whole lockdown thing, that, now you can have doctors or
Mhm.
therapists you can do it virtually.
Yeah,
So
online, yeah, or whatever, yeah.
you don't have to go and get in your car and drive and see somebody. And I think it's also less expensive too than what it used to
Mhm.
be. You're not paying someone $200 to lie there on a couch and
Yeah.
tell them you dreamt of four tigers the other night out in your front yard. Just stuff like that.
Mhm.
Caffeine and sugar also, they alleviate stress. They increase
No, increased
stress. So
stress, yeah.
just be aware of that. And just stop stressing about, I think we've covered this, people that have wronged you. Just turn
Mhm.
the fucking page, seriously.
Yeah.
Why bring more on? Focus on your own life. People get stressed worrying about other people. Focus on yourself. That's
Mhm.
another good thing. Um, and you've said, about getting sleep and all the rest of it. And then realizing what you can change and what you can't change.
Yeah,
And
take control of what you can and
just take
just leave what you
control.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And breathing, learning to breathe. There are lots of good things on YouTube about that.
Yeah.
It's just like, because when you've had an argument with someone, you feel you're,
Yeah, it all comes up to here, doesn't it?
or
Yeah.
even you don't even have to have an argument. Someone can just piss you off.
Mhm.
Driver cuts in front of you or whatever, and you feel that suddenly.
Mhm.
Just focus on your breathing. Oh, I know that sounds so trite, but it's true. It does
Yeah.
help. So, yeah. Do we have a challenge for this week, Sarah? You gonna
Yeah,
set
so
up the
I was gonna
challenge?
say, let's find a moment, and I'm sure we're all gonna have one during the week, that we find ourselves in that stressful situation and just take a step outside of it and do those things that we've just been talking about. So work out what
Mhm.
it actually is that you're stressed about. So remove the reality, then think about the fact that it's the emotion that's you're then really reacting with. Or if it is something bigger than that, then try to make a bit of an action plan and just basically go through those things that we've done. So find yourself at one point during the week, because we've all got stress, and go through that action plan of how you're going to deal with it differently to how you've done it before. I think that's a
Right.
good enough goal.
Yeah, that and the fact that just really, are you gonna care about it in
Yeah.
6 weeks from now?
Yeah.
Please join us next week. We are going to be talking about dressing well, regardless of your size or where you're going. You will feel better if you get up every day and make an effort. The entire point of dressing well is for you and the confidence that it can impart. And, you know, you don't have to have
Mhm.
lots of money to dress well. So, we'll talk about dressing on a budget as well. Thank you for joining us today. If you head to lovoniandsarah.com, you will find show notes for past episodes, including and also this one, links to where you can listen to us and watch us on YouTube. And if you go to YouTube, please give us a follow, subscribe, a thumbs up,
Thumbs up.
and also, yeah, thumbs up. We're also on Instagram. Anyway, thank you so much for your continued support. Until next week, bye for now.
Bye.